Oh, I think good. I got plenty.
Yeah.
So I do want to preface this by saying I have never presented before, so I'm going to be really anxious, and I apologize. I'm going to do my best to not let that through. So we're here. You want to learn how to make a card game. Maybe it sounds interesting. Maybe you have some ideas. So a little bit about me, just to start off, why I think I'm qualified to do this. About 10 years ago, I was like, I'm going to learn how to do some code. I'm going to learn programming. And so I did. I started making text-based games and puzzle games and all that. And anyone here ever play the Kingdom Hearts series? Perfect. We got a few of you. I love that series. So one of the things I would do a lot is make little kind of like battle games with the characters. And then I found the official Kingdom Hearts trading card game that they don't make anymore. I'm sure it's sad. And that's kind of what pushed me into card games as opposed to the video games and stuff. And so I started Jelly Fox. That's the name that I released all my stuff under. So if you ever want to find anything about it, just look for that. Yeah, released all my stuff under that. So these are some of the games that I've either worked on or released or contributed to in some way. But now let's talk about your game instead of mine, because that's why we're here. My notes. So this process is going to be broken down into 4 simple steps. These are steps I use. It's by no means the only way to do it, so don't feel kind of locked into this. Step 1 is you need to have an idea. Sounds obvious, I know. Your idea can be literally anything. It does not have to be the most groundbreaking thing in the universe. These images here are all things that have inspired games that I've worked on. Just Burger King, a meme, and the Puss in Boots movie. And then these are just various cards to show that those games were actually made. And then I actually started a new game from scratch, specifically for this panel. Really hoping to have it done in time to, show it here. It's not how the process works sometimes. It's not finished yet. But here's the idea page for it. So I got an idea. I said, I want to make a furry card game. So I wrote that down. And then for the next several weeks, whenever I had an idea, I opened up my notes app and I just added to it. And that's what it is. Step 2 of 4 is going to be the mechanics of your game. Mechanics are anything that you would do in a game, any aspect of it if you don't know. And there are a lot of them. Is your game going to be player versus player? Are you teaming up to take on a non-tangible goal? Is there going to be a resource system, life points, etc., etc.? What you're going to want to do is not try to use too many of them into your game. It's going to make it harder for you to design it, and it's going to make it harder for players to learn it. So just pick a couple that sound good to you, a couple that you like, and go off of it. I am going to say this. There's a very low chance that you're going to make a unique idea. Every mechanic has been done to death. There are thousands of games out there, but do not let that deter you. All you gotta do is kind of reframe it a little bit. So Magic the Gathering has Plains Mana in it, if you don't know what that symbol is. And what you don't want to do is you kind of copy and paste that around to your card. If you're trying to use a resource system, make your own kind of resource, do it like that. One of the most important things that you can do if you're making a game, play test it on paper first. That's going to save you a lot of time in the long run. Just grab some index cards, grab a pencil, do a little mock-up of all your cards, and then just get some friends, play it with you. What that's going to allow you to do is find any issues with your game. I was going to say bugs, but I guess it doesn't apply. It's going to let you find anything that's overpowered, underpowered, and that's not fun, anything that's too complicated, too easy. And then you can just erase it, jot down a new idea, and then just try again until you get it to a point where you're happy. And the example from that furry game I was telling you about, this is one of the actual playtest cards that I used. And yeah, just all the important stuff's on there. Step 3 or 4 is do the art. I know it sounds daunting probably to some of you, and I'm here to tell you it does not have to be, because your art does not need to be great. Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, all that, their art is amazing because they have teams of professionals. Chances are you are not a team of professionals, so your art does not need to look good as long as it looks consistent. Every card here individually kind of sucks. These are all cards that I made. They suck, but they're all the same style, so it looks cohesive, it looks consistent, and it's playable. If you're asking why consistency is important, in a card game with your art styles, because let's be real with yourself. If you open up a brand new game for the first time, you were trying to learn how to play, and this was your opening hand, you would not want to play it. Everything is not the same, it would just get too confusing. So as long as your art is consistent, it does not need to be good. If you're working alone, especially if you're working alone, be prepared to spend a very long time doing the art. It's the most time-consuming part of this process. Now, drawing things takes a while. You can get a friend's help if you have any friends who are going to be willing to do that for you. You can hire people. Each of those are going to save some things and cost some other things. So just pick whichever one works best for you, whichever one fits into your style the most. For example, here are 2 cards for games that I've worked on. You can see the one on the left is very quickly done. It's very sketchy. That is because there are hundreds of cards in that game and we're not going to spend hours doing it. The one on the right only had about 10 cards, so I was able to spend 3 to 4 hours on each one. That's why they look completely different. Just make sure to keep the scope of your game in mind when you're starting your art. Knowing your assets is also very important. The traditional playing card size is 2.5 by 3.5 inches. And that's important to know because you don't want to spend a bunch of time making this huge, beautiful piece of art, and then when it comes time to put on a card, 80% of it's cropped out. That would suck. You would have spent all that time for nothing, and it would just be sad to see your work go to waste. That Furry game, here's 3 of the finished cards from it. As you can see, again, it kind of goes into that, it's not great art, but it's consistent art. Everything's in the same place on each card, all the fonts are the same, and yeah, it's playable, but it looks bad. The final step, step 4 of 4, is going to be to publish the game. For some of you, you may be thinking that sounds completely impossible, we're never going to get there. It's actually really easy if you know how to do it and where to look. The Game Crafter, not sponsored.